Welcome back, everyone, to our podcast, One Gen Talks a Lot. My name is Andrea, and I am your host for this podcast, where we have conversations with various guests and explore their stories and perspectives in life. This is our 10th episode, and we have arrived at the end of this first season. We hope you have enjoyed our episode so far, and that the stories we've explored have inspired you in your daily life and walk with God. So today's guest is special, like all the other guests actually, but a little bit more special today because she is a very good friend of mine. She's a community services worker. She's currently with Salvation Army, and she's also an aspiring clinical psychologist. And she's also a great woman of God. So let's give it up for Michelle Tan. Woo! None of my team is really clapping, but it's okay. So before we move on, there's an important note and a disclaimer. Michelle is what we call her in church. But to the rest of the world, she's Rel. So for the sake of avoiding confusion, more for me, because I'm not going to remember to call her Rel, we've decided to use Michelle for the length of this podcast. But throughout the period of this podcast, let's say we use Rel, just know that we are referring to her. Okay, so how are you doing today, Michelle?
I'm doing good. Quite tired, but overall,
has it been a really long week for you?
Not really. I was on MC for some days, so I managed to rest. But I think overall was quite good this week.
That's good.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about this podcast?
Nervous, excited, but I kind of like that we brought our plushie here, so it's kind of cozy and nice here.
Yeah, so for those of you who are wondering why we have our random stuffed animals, so we don't really have a reason for it. It's just pretty random. But just to introduce, this is John. He's a chicken from Stardew Valley, for those of you who play Stardew Valley. Michelle, do you want to introduce your dog?
This is Bing Gan. He's a Chinese-Korean dog who basically means biscuit. As you can see, he looks like a biscuit.
He does.
Yeah.
Super cute. All right. So before we move on, would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Okay. Hi everyone. So my name is Michelle or /Rel. So as what Andrea has introduced, I think she introduced most of me already. But other than that, I'm also one of the youth leader in the church. Basically watching over the teens in our church. And I think, as what Andrea has said also, we are technically of the same age. So it's really great for me to be here, for the podcast today. Yeah.
All right. Okay. We are glad to have you here as well. It's a little bit less scary and stressful for me when it's a guest that I am very close with. But yeah, so to dive straight into it, maybe we can go back rewind back time. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about yourself, your life growing up. What was life like as a child for you?
Okay. So I didn't grow up in a Christian family actually. I grew up in a Buddhist family. So growing up, my family had a lot of sit quietly. Okay. So my family had a lot of financial issues and all that. So, loan shark issues and stuff. So, as a child, I was about 9 or 10 at that time. So it was quite scary to be dealing with those things back then. And also I was always alone at home. So growing up as a child, there was this sense of fear, that the loan sharks will come and things like that. And also, apart from that, I'm a very quiet person. I still am now, but I was way more quiet.
Only sometimes.
Are you sure? Okay. But yeah, I was very quiet. So it was quite lonely because I didn't know how to express myself to people. I didn't know how to share my problems with people. So even things like Chinese New Year, when I go visit my relatives and all, sometimes, they'll come and tell my parents, oh, she's autistic, is it? And things like that. And then some of my relatives will say she studied until her brain burned already, things like that. It's but honestly, looking back, hearing these things, it was not very nice to hear at a young age, right? Because basically how to say, it is a very lonely journey already because you don't have people to talk to. And then the more they say those things, the more it reinforces my quietness. So I remain quiet a lot of those times. So that was my early childhood, I would say.
So you have siblings also, right? Were you not very close with your siblings? Because you mentioned that you didn't really have people to talk to, or you didn't really have people who understood you.
Yeah, I do have siblings, but I would say we're not very close because we have about 7 to 9 years age gap. So by that time, it was quite hard for me to relate to them. Like when I was growing up at this age, they were already at a different phase of life and stuff. Yeah.
Understand. So just now you mentioned that you had relatives who would come up to you or your parents and say that, oh, you have autism, is it? I find that really interesting because I think generally in Malaysia, like especially for like Chinese, the older generation, I don't think they would understand what autism is. So I find it quite interesting that they would kind of label you as autistic. So like, do you have any thoughts or any theories about that? Like, how do you think that they would know about autism?
I would say like at that time, of course, when I was 9 or 10, I didn't know what autism is. So when someone labeled me as autism, it's like okay, it becomes a label. But I do heard that term before, but it's not a very accurate term of it. So it's like what society think it is, because back then mental health and neurological disorder wasn't very well known. So I would say from what their perspective, I would think is they would think that autistic means you're very antisocial, like you don't like to talk to people, you're very withdrawn to yourself, and like you have no empathy for people around you, you don't know how to connect with people. So that's their perspective of autism. But I would say autism is a spectrum. It's from what we learn these days is that autism is a spectrum. There are some people who are higher functioning, there are some who are less functioning. So the thing is that it's different from person to person. Even in my workplace now, there's an autistic child. He's quite high functioning, and I find it very easy to communicate with him because I would say he's, how to say, it's like they will ask why, they will understand, they will try to understand what's the reasoning to not do this, not do that. So I would say autism is a spectrum. That's one thing that people didn't really grasp sometimes, but it's always important to understand that every child is different in their own ways. So another thing about autism is, and same with other mental disorders as well, it's very hard, it's very quite limiting to label someone as autistic or schizophrenic, for example. So like it's very, how to say, like it limits you. So like when I learned that I was autistic, even though it wasn't true at that point, and even now, so although it wasn't true, but like it's very limiting because there's a preconceived idea of what is autism. So like very quiet. So it reinforces that cycle once again. Yeah.
So I think this period of time, not this period of time, but in this generation, people tend to mislabel, or they tend to label people a lot. Like how, your relatives labeled you as autistic, even though you weren't actually autistic, or even though there was no diagnosis. So do you have any thoughts about like, this trend of people just labeling other people that they are autistic or they are bipolar, things like that, even though there is no evidence, or even though there has been no concrete diagnosis that these people are, whatever that they are labeled as?
I would say like the thing with like one of the things that just came to my head is like, for example, autistic or schizophrenic. It becomes like a label on top of their head, like I'm autistic, I'm schizophrenic. It becomes part of their identity. But it's very different when you come and tell someone, okay, this person has autism, this person has schizophrenia. So it's a condition that they have, but it's not part of their identity. Because when it becomes part of their identity, it's very limiting to them. So it's like they live with it. Some people, they will think that, okay, this is me. This is part of me. I
This
mean,
is who I
of
am.
course, yeah. I mean, of course, it is something that you're struggling with and all that, but it shouldn't define who you are as a person. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people these days also don't actually understand what they are labeling people. They don't understand what autism is. They don't understand what bipolar. They don't understand what OCD is when they call people it. So, yeah. But anyways, let's go back to your story as a child. It seems like you struggle a lot. You struggle a lot with fear. You struggle a lot with being misunderstood by people and not having really a support system that helped you throughout the struggles that you faced. So how did you cope with these struggles or these challenges that you faced as a child?
I would say similar to how I have a companion here now. Back then, and even now actually, I have a dog at home. I have 4 dogs now actually, but one of them is Max. So he has been the one that accompanied me since I was 11 or so. So whenever I was alone at home, he was the one that was always accompanying me. I think apart from having my pet with me, it was also, I think different people cope very differently. Some people, when they have a problem, they deal with the problem, right? Although very rarely.
Yes.
But like in my case, I know it was something that is unavoidable. Like I can't escape from this problem because I was too young to solve anything, right? So the only thing that I could do is to escape from it. So how did I escape from it is, I can't escape physically, but I can escape mentally.
Yeah.
So what happened was I played a lot of games, mobile games, computer games. I play a lot of those first-person shooting, boom, 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 and then a lot of like The Sims,
The
The
Sims.
Walking Dead.
It's a very wide range of games from
Yeah,
like shooting games to like The Sims.
yeah, like cooking games, literally every kind of games. I was just playing games. Crazy. So I was a game addict at that point, and then sometimes I would play until late night as well. And then I will also watch a lot of dramas. I really love Hong Kong dramas. I grew up watching TVB a lot, and then chasing celebrities as well. So like whenever they come to Malaysia, I'll go meet them and all. So it was like it brings a sense of comfort, a sense of relief to me because like there's these things that bring me such excitement. Even though like sometimes things can be difficult, but these things bring such comfort to me. And then also my friend introduced me to anime, which there's a lot of genres, but I would say eventually this anime watching habit became into a pornography addiction. So what happened was this this entire progress is like, it's very unconscious. So I didn't realize that it was pornography until many years later, because like what seems normal at that point eventually turns out to be something like, it went way ahead.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any guidance at that point, so I didn't realize that, okay, this is bad, this is a sin. And at that point I didn't know Jesus yet as well. So that was how I cope with a lot of those things, things that what people would say bring you dopamine.
Yeah. So you mentioned pornography, right? So at what age were you exposed to it?
I would say around 11 or
That's
12.
really
Yeah.
young. That's really young. Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that at that point of time you didn't know that that this wasn't bad, this wasn't good, this was a sin. You didn't realize that this was a sin, and you also didn't realize that whatever that you were doing at that point, your coping methods, your coping mechanisms were not healthy. So when did you realize that whatever that you were doing was wrong, especially the pornography part?
I think I would say like, so accepting Christ was another story on its own. So I accepted Christ at the age of around 14 or so. But even after I accept Christ, I would say it's the same, because in a way I still didn't know it was a sin. So I accepted Christ that time. I still didn't know that it was a sin. And then after that, I think slowly having a relationship with God for myself and realizing that, okay, this is actually like, when I realized it was a sin, like watching pornography and all that was a sin, I tried to stop, but of course I repented and then I fell back into it again. So it was a constant cycle of this repenting and falling back into it for quite a couple of years. But you know, I did want to stop. The will was there, but it was an addiction. It was a struggle. It was a chain that was holding me back then. And so I think at one point I decided that enough is enough because I felt like I was taking God for granted. I felt like, you know, God has done so much for me on that cross, but every time that I fall back into that sin, I'm crucifying Christ all over again. And, you know, when you're watching pornography, the Holy Spirit is there and you're grieving the Holy Spirit who is holy. And that was my biggest realization that, you know, if I really love Jesus, then I wouldn't do what would hurt him again and again. Yeah, so that was one of the things that helped me and pushed me forward to stop. But of course, it's not on my own strength. It was really a lot of the help of the Holy Spirit. It was really the strength of God that helped me, the power of God, the Word of God, prayer, a lot of prayer. And I think eventually I told my church friend in the end. And I would say God really has been faithful. He blessed me with good friends in the end. Although the early journeys were lonely, but down the road, people like you as well, part of my journey. So I would say like down the road, God really blessed me with friends that I could have accountability with to share about my story. And through that also that helped me with overcoming the addiction as well. Yeah.
So I believe that it's not easy to overcome this addiction, right? And like you mentioned that it wasn't through your own strength. It was through the strength of God. It was through the people that God placed in your life. So can you perhaps share a little bit more about that journey of overcoming this addiction, especially for perhaps those of our audience who might perhaps be also going through the same struggle that you did? What was the process like? What did you do, or how was the journey of overcoming this addiction?
I would say don't condemn yourself first and foremost, because I know being a Christian, especially if you're having this addiction, and of course for a lot of you who are watching, you'll be like, huh? A girl like me, a young girl, watch pornography? Can man? No, I mean back then, you know, I was young. Now, okay. But so like, I mean, people would think that it's a boys thing, you know, like boys do boys thing. But like, for girls to actually also have that kind of addiction, like people will be quite surprised by it. But also, I think it also comes back to like, don't condemn yourself. Don't be ashamed of what you're going through. Really seek the help that you need. Really seek God as well, the help of God. Because, I mean, you can have your friends with you, but in the end, it's God also the one that really helps you to overcome it. So whenever I fell back into the temptation, I'll feel guilty. I'll condemn myself. And of course, the enemy's voice will come as well. The enemy will be like, you say you're a child of God. Look at what you're doing and all that. But I would say God is firm and gracious at the same time. So like, he would correct me through his word. He will give me certain verses to help me through that time. You know, things like we are more than conquerors through Christ, who strengthens us and helps us and all that. We have the victory and all that. So those are the reminders that helps me. And at the same time, God also rebukes me when he has to, but at the same time, he's gracious. So it's a very like, a lot of things combined together. It's a firm and loving God, but also to be compassionate to yourself as well, to not condemn yourself whenever you fall back in, but know that, you know, you're on that journey. You want to improve. You're not lazy to let it be, but you want to improve. So don't condemn yourself whenever you fall back in. But ultimately, I would say, because I would say this journey lasted until I was 22. So it's about more than 10 years in this entire journey. So this whole entire cycle was lasting for about more than 10 years. And so while I was studying psychology, I decided to attend therapy as well. So that helped as well. Like I found out about this thing called fight the new drug. So it's like explaining how pornography is like a drug addiction as well. So the more you consume it, the more your tolerance increases. Like you want more of it. And how it affects your brain, similar to a drug addiction. It changes your brain shape. And all these things actually help me to understand how it ultimately affects my brain, how it affects my life, how it causes dysfunction, things like that. So that understanding also helps me together with God, together with people. So it's just a lot of different things coming together. Yeah.
So I think one thing that you mentioned is to really God was really the center of helping you overcome this addiction, right? It's to also really have the relationship with God, to spend time with Him, to allow yourself to hear from Him also, because you mentioned that the Word of God was there to encourage you during times the enemy was attacking you, right? So would you say that one of the main things to overcome addiction is to really have that relationship with God?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So another thing that I wanted to ask you is about your mental health challenges as well. I believe addiction is, if I'm not mistaken, considered a mental health, mental disorder, mental health challenge or something like that. Is it?
I have no idea.
Okay. Pretend I didn't say that then. I don't wanna give
Misdiagnosed.
ajaran sesat. But yeah, I believe that you also struggled with mental health along the way as you were overcoming this addiction. So would you share a little bit about that as well?
So I would say another turning point for me when I was on this pornography addiction is, like I said, at the age of 22, I decided to stop once and for all because, like I said, I realized it affected my brain a lot. Because I was surviving on dopamine. I was like, I was seeking for dopamine. And so without dopamine, my brain just kind of like dies off. It's not really receiving any stimulation, I would say. So at that point, I realized that my reality didn't feel like a reality. So what happened was everything felt like a dream to me. Like my reality felt like a dream. So like that happened when I was 21 actually. I only realized it at the age of 22, where after living for a year like that, I was like, why does everything feel so unreal? Why do I feel like I'm just living like very purposeless? Not just purposeless, but also like everything feels like a dream. Like even when I look at this pillow or this everything that I touch, everything that I feel, even though I was crying, I was like an empty shell. Like I was crying on the outside, but inside it feels like, is this real? Am I actually crying? So everything felt unreal. And then
Was this like a constant state?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Every day for like a whole year, it felt like that.
Yeah. So like even after I wake up, I was like, okay, it feels like a dream. Like everything is unreal. Like even when I talk to people, like, are these people real? Like it's funny, but at the same time, it's also scary.
Yeah.
It becomes scary at some point because I don't know what's wrong with me at the point. And then my memory started to become bad. Like even when I was having conversation with people, I don't remember what I said or what people said a few minutes ago. I have to really think hard, like what happened, and all that. And even attention as well. My attention started to become bad. Like I couldn't focus what people were saying and stuff like that. So it was very scary. And I realized I lost interest in a lot of things. I realized I started to have these depression symptoms, not self-diagnosing, by the way. So I started to feel like all these things. It's quite scary because I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
But again, I went to therapy and all that. So what happened was they said it's called something called brain fog. So it happens when, when the amount of stress is too high, and this thing called window of tolerance, very technical stuff. But basically when people have stress, they either become hyper aroused, which is like, became like angry, become like furious, they go on high mode, or they go to the super low mode where they become numb. They freeze. Yeah, their body just, stop functioning. Yeah. So that's the two ends of this.
Yeah.
But ideally, you have to manage the stress properly. But what happened to me was, I went down. I went to the freeze state. So I was just, my brain froze, everything froze, because I couldn't tolerate the amount of stress. But it's not just the amount of stress, but also because I didn't have rest. Back then in uni, I was involved in a lot of things in church, at home, and also part-time job and things like that. I told myself I couldn't rest, I shouldn't rest. And so even when I rested, I woke up feeling tired again. So this whole entire thing caused burnout and everything else. So it became a prolonged journey, a prolonged cycle. I would say even till now, the brain fog is always there. There are some days where it gets better, but there are some days where, it's back to the same old. Yeah.
So how does this affect your life?
I would say it's very cognitive, like in terms of your memory, your attention is not there. Like I said, having conversations with people, even like podcasts like this, I have to really remember what happened in my childhood.
You're doing really well though.
yeah, really thank God. It's the Holy Spirit speaking maybe. But yeah, I'm really amazed at, the grace of God throughout this period. Because I would say with my memory, with my attention and all this connection from reality thing, it's very scary, but I can really see the grace of God all throughout. Yeah.
So what was the process of overcoming this? I mean, you wouldn't be able to completely overcome it because, like you mentioned just now, it's still, this brain fog is still kind of there. But I think you mentioned that there was a period of time that was really, really bad, right? So how did you get through that period of time to where you are today?
God. I think just one with God. Because I think just 2 years ago, actually, I did have suicidal thoughts as well, because the brain fog did get so bad that to the point where I felt like, what's the point of living if everything didn't feel real? If problems were there, I would want to handle it, but it's the brain fog that makes even the problems feel unreal. Get what I mean? It's like everything feels so unreal, even problems, even stress, even sadness, even happiness. So it's the good and the bad, everything feels unreal. So it becomes very like, since everything is unreal, what's the purpose of living? Because, in life, you need to have happiness, you need to have sadness, you need to go through the ups and downs, but everything feels like this. Yeah. So there were problems, of course, but everything felt unreal. So I wanted to end my life once and for all. But I think God really saved me. God really pulled me out. A friend of mine sent me a sermon that time. And a bunch of other things happened, but God really pulled me out of that pit. It's quite similar to how Jesus was dead and he raised back to life again. In my spirit, I was, I knew God was there, but sometimes I couldn't experience, I didn't feel God. But, God is not based on feelings, of course, but even that felt unreal. But I knew that, deep down, even though everything was unreal, God was real. So I had to hold on to that. I had to hold on to that faith that, in the midst of this fogginess, like God was still real. So, God really raised me up again from there. He really gave me words. And, there was this song by Elevation Worship called Sure Being Good. Lord, without your love, where would I be? That was the line that got me to where I am today. If it's not for God, I wouldn't be here today because, my life would have been purposeless. God reminded me again that he still has a purpose for me, even with my brain fog, even though it's been so many years, like God still has a plan for me. God still is, maybe God wouldn't heal me. Maybe God would, I don't know. But what matters most is that, like, with this brain fog, what can I do for God? And what else can God do in and through me, through this brain fog as well? Yeah.
That's really inspiring, because I think a lot of the times when you go through difficulties, when you go through challenges like this, you start wondering, okay, why do I have to go through this? But it's also to remember that through all these challenges, through all these valleys that we go through, it's also a way for God to show how good and how amazing that he has been in our lives. Yeah. So I just wanted to ask as well, so after you have shared all this, right, all the struggles, yet you have been through the addiction, the mental health challenges, I believe that it partly also stems from your childhood to a certain extent, perhaps the fear that you have gone through, the loneliness. So what support could you have been given as a child or as a teenager to avoid or to perhaps minimize all this from escalating to this point that you experienced?
Good question. I would say for a lot of the people, they will think that teenagers, I mean, a lot of people will think that, teenagers go through their puberty, teenagers go through this phase. Everyone has been through that. But I would say, like, Gen Z or like Gen Alpha, people call them the snowflake generation, little bit also cannot tahan. So, but I would say this generation is really different in their own ways. Like, we often hear of people having like suicide attempts and all that these days. To really look at them, to really, I think what I needed was a hearing ear, a listening ear, so someone there to listen to me. Because apart from all these things, I also struggled with my sexual identity back then. So I would have really wanted some guidance of some sort, like someone that could tell me, like, what was I going through, what was I experiencing. Maybe they wouldn't be able to tell me because everyone is different, right? But in some way, I would say listen, just someone there to listen. Because a lot of the things that I went to led to certain outcomes, certain consequences. But I wish that, it would have stopped before I went there, before I went to those things. So if I had an outlet to express what I was feeling, some way, someone who is patient enough to listen to me, perhaps that would have changed things a little bit.
So a support system is really important.
Yeah.
If you could turn back time, if you could go back to your past and change one thing that you would do differently, what would you do?
I mean, I would say I'm very grateful for where I am today, regardless of what I've been through. I'm very grateful for the journey that God has brought me through, because that's how I saw his faithfulness. That's how I came to this point. But, really, everything happened for a reason, as cringe as it is. Everything happens for a reason. Everything had a purpose that has to lead to this point. So I would say that if it weren't for all these things, I wouldn't be here today. If it weren't for all these things, I wouldn't be who I am today. But I would say that, I wish I have sought God more back then. I wish God was the firm foundation of me instead of going to all these things. Instead of escaping all these things, I wish I had gone to God first. But he's always welcoming, even till today.
But like you also mentioned, if you hadn't gone through all these things, you wouldn't have this testimony today to tell. So Yeah. Before we end, I would like to ask you for final advice for two groups of people. So the first group is to the youths out there, to the young people out there who are experiencing similar struggles like you did back then, mental health problems and addictions. Like, what advice do you have for them? And the second group of people is parents, because like you mentioned just now, if you had a better support system back when you were younger, you probably wouldn't have gone through certain of the things that you had gone through. So to the parents out there, what words do you have for them in terms of the support that they should provide to their children in the area of mental health?
I think firstly for the youths, don't wait till you get to the end point to seek God or to seek help. Because really, in the end, all that matters is God. All that matters is Him. You know, like you can go to anyone, you can go to K-pop, you can go to anyone, but in the end, the only one who can heal your soul, the only one who can help your heart to heal fully as it is God. Yeah. So really run to God and don't hide the fact that you're not okay, because I think a lot of our society thinks that, you know, you have to be okay, but it's okay to not be okay. Yeah. So like, you know, really, you know, don't wait to the last minute. Because in the end, if these things are buried deep in your heart, one day it can affect the next generation. It can affect your children and your children's children. So don't wait till you're old to deal with these things. Deal with them as it is now. You know, in psychology, they call it the unresolved baggage, burden.
Okay. I don't remember
trauma,
that, okay.
Whatever it is, you know. So things like that, you have to deal with them. You have to heal, so that, you know, you won't bring that hurt. You won't bring that sadness. I mean, not sadness, but you won't bring that same baggage to your children as well in the future. Yeah. So not just for them, but also for yourself, that, you know, you deserve to live an authentic life, a life that you don't have to hide that behind a mask, things like that. Secondly, for parents, I would say to really look for changes in behaviors, attitudes. Even a rebellious behavior is a sign. Sometimes we think that, you know, they have to be very, very depressed to think that they're not okay. But, you know, some people are over happy. You know, over happy is a bit scary, I would say.
What is over happy like?
So like if you buy someone a Disneyland ticket, of course they will be happy, overjoyed, right? But like if all of a sudden they are overly happy, like yeah, everything also yeah. So it's a bit scary, because like sometimes people think that they have to be happy, they have to hide their unhappiness. So you have to watch out for that as well. Being a human is difficult, right? I know. So you're happy also cannot, sad also cannot. But yeah, just listen to your children. Just watch out for them. I mean, I don't mean in a way that you have to control what they see online. You don't have to control them, because they deserve their freedom as well. Of course, I don't have the qualification of parenting. But yeah, so just the right amount, the right balance. Because find the right approach. Because, you know, sometimes one approach doesn't work. Then, you know, you have to see, you have to listen, you have to observe. Because nowadays our society is very prone to just giving an answer, always ready to give an answer. But
Solutions.
we have to pause. We have to listen first. Yeah. What are their needs? Yeah. So let's really hear from them. Sometimes it can be a non-verbal sign. You know, Asians, we don't really say things out. So sometimes it's non-verbal things. So you have to observe, really, really pay attention to your children, even though you're busy, I know. Because I know every parents do their best in their work, in their family, wherever that they go. So parents, you're doing a great job. But really notice the signs in your children. Really look at your children and listen to them first. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing. Very vulnerably as well. I know it's not easy to be this vulnerable, sharing your past and about things that are perhaps quite taboo here in Malaysia as well. So thank you for sharing. I hope and I believe that your story will be a really great testimony and also will be a great help for the teenagers and the youth, the young people out there who are perhaps also experiencing or who have experienced the same things as Michelle as well. So thank you so much once again for coming and sharing and bringing your little puppy with us. And also thank you to our very lovely audience for tuning in and for following us for this past 10 episodes. So this marks the end of the first season. We will be back next year. So stay tuned for our second season. And that will be all today and this year. See you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.